YOLO amazing people of the tube. So I want to talk to you guys about depression, because I was in depression heavily from about 16 years old until I was about 31 years old. And it's deep, man. And the reason why I'm actually making the video is because there's so many people online, these so-called intellectual authorities, these psychologists, these so-called people that are supposed to know what the fuck they're talking about, and they don't know shit about what they're talking about. And it's messed up because most of them are just really well book-read people with very little common sense and very little understanding of what the hell any of this is and why it is, or any of that. Not everybody is a Jordan Peterson. You know what I'm saying? That knows the ins and outs and has gone through his own turmoil, right? Because there's a big difference in being book read and actually have gone through it yourself, so you know all the minute little details. And that's some of the stuff I want to touch on, because that's the important stuff. So imagine me being in depression for like 15, 16 years. There's a certain psychology that you start developing, and the psychology you start developing is the way I like to say it is like the clarity of depression is deadly. And what I mean by that is, since you're in so much turmoil and you're in so much horrific pain, right? All your other senses slowly start getting desensitized. They start diminishing to a point where you're actually struggling with all the other emotions. All the other emotions don't even matter because you got this like dark cloud over you, right? And it's this unimaginable pain you're in. It's words can't describe the crazy type of pain you're in when you're manically depressed, man. And it's crazy. So like, I've been shot 5 times, right? Nearly died, should have died. I don't know how I survived, like just through miracles. Just the pain of that, having to get out the hospital with full body atrophy, having to learn how to walk, and all my muscles all over again and all this stuff. Dude, I'd rather redo all of that than do the depression. You hear what I'm saying? Like, that's how bad real depression hurts. And it's a roller coaster. If you've ever been in depression, or you're in depression, it's a roller coaster, man. It's not just a consistent thing. It's like it goes up, it gets worse, it gets better, it gets worse, and it'll get better and worse throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the months, you know. And there was times where for maybe 3-4 years I literally lived hour to hour. I had to like convince myself, like, hey man, just make it to the next hour, dude. Just make it to the next hour. And then, or just make it until nighttime, you know? Just make it until bed. And then you wake up and you're thinking like, fuck man, why did I wake up, man? Like, why can't I just pass out in my sleep, you know? Or you get what I'm saying? Or you go to bed thinking like, man, I hope I don't wake up, right? And depression starts creating other issues alongside it. So in my case, it put me down the rabbit hole of becoming not just antisocial, man, but I became a sociopath, you know. And it's not 100% clear if I was prior to that, or it just enhanced it, or rubber stamped it, or what it did. But because I was like 15, 16 when it started creeping up on me, right? So by 17 I was already in depression. So for me to think back and to think, all right, was I in depression, or was I a sociopath prior to this? It's very hard for me to say. But if you are in depression, you know, most of the time you don't want to see nobody. You don't want to see your friends. You You don't want to go to the party. You don't want to see the girl. You don't want to do shit. Like in my case, I wanted to sleep. I could sleep fucking all day, every day. I had an eating disorder because of it. I couldn't eat food. Not because like I was anorexic or this or that. It was more like I would just not get hungry. And I would have to try and force feed myself. And when I would force feed myself, only after like a few bites, I couldn't do any more. You know? And it was just this rabbit hole I was going down, man. And I had insomnia, just so many various things it caused, right? And the large majority of all of it went away with the depression, except the thought process, which is the most important part of it, that none of these therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists, none of them really understand this concept that when you're in depression and all your senses are toned down, right? Like, you have this intense clarity of life. You're not seeing anything from a emotional perspective. None of it is from an emotional standpoint. So you're able to actually look at things for the way they are, right? And it gives you the answers to so many questions that people have, that you have in depression, and none of the answers are pretty answers. That's one of the messed up parts about depression, right? So when you first start going into depression, one of the first questions everybody asks is, what is my purpose? Why are we here? What is the purpose of us being here? Is there a purpose, right? And in my 16 years of being in depression, like, I answered all those questions. I answered them. I had so much time to think, and my answer was that no, there's absolutely no reason. No more different than the trees, no more different than the birds, the fish. As much of a reason as they have is just as much, not more, not less. That's it. And this concept of that nothing fucking matters, right? Because all of that is superficial. All the superficial shit, all the stuff that are just relative, right? Like, none of it fucking matters, because what was right over here is wrong over there. What was right during this point in time was wrong during that point of time, right? So it's all relative and it's all superficial, like cars and clothes and houses, and none of it fucking matters. None of it is really worth anything. It's only worth whatever we pretend it's worth, right? Like, you can go buy a brand new Rolls Royce and think you're hot shit, right? Like, but fucking look at the 10-year-old Rolls Royce. You don't even fucking want it. And that's what's gonna happen to today's Rolls Royce. 10 years from now, no one's gonna fucking want it. That's how realistic that concept of, oh, you're balling and you have something nice and dope and it matters. That's how little it fucking matters. It doesn't. You're gonna have tons of cars in your life. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have tons of clothes. What matters is people, friends, family, your pet. You know what I'm saying? And it's annoying to me and it's ridiculous, because especially when I was in depression, I'll try and listen to these specialists, these people of authority on this topic, right? Supposedly. These salamander-ass fucking motherfuckers, right? That just talk about all of it like nonchalant, and they mention all these complex topics as if as if they're not complex at all, right? They'll throw in all kinds of shit. They'll throw in narcissism, psychopathy, being a sociopath, being antisocial, and criminality, and how criminals and the criminal rate and all these stuff. And you're like, dude, what the fuck does any of that have to do with my depression, dude? Right? Like, I'm saying in my this is what I mean by that, is that, like, I don't expect any specialist to be 100% right about everything. But I definitely expect them to not be fucking 90% wrong all the fucking time. Everything that's coming out of their mouth is 90% wrong. I'm not expecting that, right? And that's the problem. Like, these motherfuckers are book read, and they're just juggling all these topics, and none of it really makes sense with the things they're saying prior to it. They're just regurgitating this shit they've read, and they don't really have a concept of it. So when you tell them you're in pain, right, of which you're really in pain, your pain is real, and it's hella fucking painful. These people can't understand what that means. They genuinely cannot understand what that means. The severity of that pain. They can only equate it to physical pain, to one day them being sad, having a broken heart one day, you know, losing their dog, right? But that's not depression. Depression is completely something else. It has nothing to do with, in my case, it had nothing to do with anything. It was just an accumulation of my entire life and where I was, and it just kept me in depression for fucking ever. I didn't think I was ever gonna get out that motherfucker, you know? And that's why I say, like, I'm making this video, because those people they're doing a disservice to people in the depression, man. And I'm here to try and at least help. And I'm gonna tell you, man, like me, man, just, if you're at that severe level where you really want to call quits, of which, look, my personal opinion is, it's everybody's born right to be able to off themselves if things become so painful and so beyond fixable, and like there's no end in sight. This is just gonna be worse and worse. People have a right to call quits, except in my case, I told myself, like, I'm not gonna hit the off button until I'm out of depression. And if I'm out of depression and I think and feel the same way in regards to it, then I'm just gonna off myself. It is what it is. But because I said that to myself, I would keep telling myself, man, just make it to the next hour, make it to the night, make it to the next day. And I wasn't one of these people that did nothing with his life or his day. You know, like, I dropped out of high school. I went and I enrolled straight into college. I opened up a small business. I had a girlfriend. I had bitches. I had my close friends. I had a side hustle. I had another side hustle. I was packing on as much things as I possibly humanly can on my plate. I was overpacking it. And I wasn't overpacking it to overachieve. I wasn't doing it for the money. I wasn't doing it. I was doing it to try and stay alive. I was trying to do it in any way, shape, or form I could possibly do it. You know, and like, I had good friends. I had a good girlfriend. And yet none of it took my pain away. And most of the time, all I needed was someone to just tell me, like, it's gonna be all right. Like, it's gonna be all right. You know, and now I'm not in depression Until today, when people ask me, hey, how are you? I say I'm always good, even when I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not in depression anymore. So, like, it could be as bad as it is, man. Like, I've been shot, nearly died, fucking the depression, the suicidal tendencies, the self-destructiveness, just the accumulation of all the trauma in my life, all that. I'm always good. You know, like, I'm good under pressure. I'm good with the pain. I'm good with all of it. I don't give a fuck. You know? So I'm here to tell you, it's gonna be alright. Like in my case, man, it took a decade and a fucking half to get out of that bitch. But I did. Imagine, I was anorexic. I was an anorexic. I had an eating disorder. Anorexic is like a little different, right? It's like people throwing up. They have body issues and stuff like that. I didn't have body issues. I just couldn't eat. I had no appetite. I wanted to just sleep. I was tired non-stop, 24/7, all day. And that tiredness stayed even until now. I'm 38 now. You know what I'm saying? And that thought process, that clarity of being in depression, I can't shake that. Like, I have this new concept, this new way of thinking, where some of my emotions are slightly there and they're not 100% overwhelmed by this other feeling, the depressive feeling, right? But because the depressive feeling is gone, now I have these other things where it's like, wait, man, like, why was I even thinking that way, you know? But that I was in that for so long that I remember that thought process, like, it's with me until today. I look at things from so many different perspectives, from the perspective of my perspective, your perspective, the people from the sideline across the street's perspective, the perspective of looking from the sky, the perspective of from the animals, the perspective of nature, the perspective of what we're trying to do as human beings on this planet, the perspective of my friends and their family, all on trivial, every single topic, right? Like, it made this, and it's crazy though, because you revert back to this like concept of like your base operation, like whatever you're operating on is logic, reason, like reasoning, not just reason, but like reasoning, logic and reasoning. That's all I had to fall back on. And when your emotions are gone and you're looking at everything from just logic and reasoning, nothing is nice, nothing is beautiful, nothing is worth what people pretend it is, right? Like Mike Tyson said it best, and that's one manically depressed ass person, man, and it's evident to everybody, right? But he said, like, I had the world's biggest ego. I had all this self-worth, but I had zero self-value. My life wasn't worth shit. And that's exactly how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. I too had the biggest ego in the world. For many good reasons, for solid reasons. But yet I wasn't worth shit, right? Like, in terms of my life was no different than a tree, no different than the dog, a cat, a mouse. Like, it was no different. People, animals, everything is like, the value of their life, like, it's not worth shit. So an example I'll give is like, with that logic, it was like if someone were to tell me, hey man, like, you have a gun and you either have to kill this elephant, or you have to kill a person. Hands down, the person goes. They're like, okay, how about 10 people instead of the elephant? Yeah, 10 people go. The elephant is like that big, weighs that much, barely produces any offspring. They're fucking an endangered species. We're 8 billion people on the planet. Yeah, the 10 people fucking go. Right? And all you people that, like, this doesn't make sense to you, like, I'll put it in another perspective. You motherfuckers pretend to like the elephant, but what you really want is the elephant tusks, right? And you'll kill the elephant for the tusks. You don't want the rhino, you just want the rhino horn, and to leave the fucking rhino bleeding to death. You don't want the shark, you want the shark fins, right? All for your greedy ass profit. And that's why these animals are going extinct and endangered and all this stuff, because you guys are out of whack. Like, to a person in clarity, with clarity and depression, you guys are fucking maniacs. You got, it's absolute lunacy. That's the type of clarity it gives you, right? And so if your life isn't worth shit, and my life isn't really worth shit, or better yet, if mine isn't worth shit, why would yours be worth something? Right? And it's not like I didn't have self-respect. I had a ton of self-respect. I had a big ego, a healthy ego. But in terms of, is anything really worth anything? Nah, not really. There was billions of people before us. There'll be billions after. Like, I almost died. I know the end result. I almost died at fucking... So 2018. That makes me like... From 38 to 2018. Fuck, 6 years ago. 32. 32 years old. I was extremely popular in all the schools I was in. Outside of school, I was even more popular. I had great friends, lifelong friends. Women loved me. Family loved me. Dude, if I died at 32, people would have forgot me in a week. 90%. 95% would have forgot me in a month. In a year, there would probably be one handful of people that would be like, oh, fuck, man, I can't believe that homie went. You know, like, that was a solid guy right there, man. Like, that was my dude. I can't believe he's gone. That'd be just a handful of people, man. I'll probably get, like, a visit a year to my funeral, to my grave. You know what I'm saying? I knew that. I understand that. I almost did die, so I saw who came to the hospital and the reasons why they came to the hospital, right? So I know I'm throwing a lot of what I've gone through, and I know the book side of it, because I was trying to cure myself in any way, shape, and form. So I've read more about psychology, depression, and all these things than most of the people that are with degrees, because I was trying to fix myself, because none of these people could fix me. Most of them were too dumb. Most of them didn't have enough experience, or if they did have experience, they were just not bright enough to be able to apply it, or they didn't have the command of language to try and put things in a perfect perspective, right? Because you can take something very complex, but to teach it in a very simple form that anybody understands it's a gift of its own, right? To be able to verbally communicate these things. So if you're in depression, man, like, hit it down in the comments section. If you're a sociopath, your thing, whatever the fuck, whatever your question, I'll help you out, man. One thing I will say is, like, people in depression, we have this problem with going and taking antidepressants, for example, right? I had a big problem taking, I didn't take any antidepressants. which was extremely wrong, because you're willing to self-medicate other ways. You'll do it with alcohol, you'll do it with pills, other types of pills, right? Long as they're not psychoactive pills. But in reality, those psychoactive pills, they're working on you in such a slow and gentle manner that it's not like you're high. It's not like they're changing the way you think or who you are. You might as well try them. For fuck's sake, your life at least is worth that much, I hope. And now they have these new things, right? Like ketamine clinics, where they can actually cure depression. But then after you cure the depression, man, you still have to battle this shit, the psychology inside your head, man. And this is how that shit is. This is how complex and painful that is, right? Like, we have something called cutters, people that cut themselves, right? Well, the reason why cutters cut themselves is because they're in turmoil in their brain, in their head, they're in pain. So trying to like block that pain out, they'll cut themselves, because then it's like, okay, now it's a physical pain it got transformed to. But that's my pain. It's right there. It hurts because I cut myself. It's bleeding because I cut myself. I understand that. I can use it, and they use it as a distractive tool or method. I never cut myself, but I knew a bunch of cutters. Nobody understood them. I understood them. I didn't agree with them, but I understood them. And then, man, like, in my case, like I told you, like, now I'm fully aware I am a sociopath. I was in denial for a long time about it. But certain things happened to me in my life that proved, like, they were right. I was a sociopath. I am a sociopath. And that's, I believe, mainly due to me being in depression for as long as I was in it. And even when I hear these people, bro, if you hear them talk about sociopathy, it's fucking ridiculous. They'll mix up everything and anything. They'll talk about like 50 massive topics into one just to sound like they know what they're talking about. They're just gargling these big words and these big concepts, right? Like, oh, the majority of criminals and the majority of psychopaths, and this is the way they do, and this is the way they act and think, and I'm thinking, motherfucker, I'm a sociopath, bro. I could give a fuck less what you think. I could give a fuck less how you feel. I could give a fuck less about manipulating you. There's no need to. I don't have those desires. That's you guys' desires. That's you guys' fear that there's a person like me that doesn't give a fuck, but is somehow honed in on trying to abuse you and manipulate you. I'm not a narcissist, motherfucker. I'm not a psychopath. I don't fucking torture kittens. You know what I'm saying? On the contrary, if I saw you torturing a kitten, I'll fucking bash your head in. Because you thought you could do it to this creature because it's weaker than you. Then me being stronger than you, I need to teach you a lesson now. To respect nature and other living fucking creatures, because you're not God's special little fucking creature. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, I'm mixing up a lot of things into it's an emotional topic. It gets me a little angry because, yeah, it gets me angry and it gets me a little wound up. So it is what it is. But if you have anything to say, leave it in the comment section, man. I'm gonna read it. If you need help, you need advice, you have questions, you want me to shed more light on a certain thing or a certain perspective, ask it, man. 16 years of depression is not It's not a little bit of time, man. I did a lot of fucking reading. I did a lot of self-analysis. I did a lot of self-improvement. I tried so many fucking things, man. I guinea-pigged myself in so many different ways, trying to, man, maybe if I do it this will happen, you know? I thought, hey, man, you know what? Maybe if I did ecstasy for, you know, back to back for, like, let's say a week and a half, a week, maybe it'll kickstart some chemicals in my brain that's not kickstarted. Nah, none of that shit worked. None of it fucking worked, you know? I don't know, man. I don't know. Hit it up in the comment section. I'll do my best to help you out. You know what I'm saying? Solo YOLO BOLO. Don't fucking off yourself. Don't off yourself. Usually I'll throw in a dark humored, sarcastic joke like, you know, down the street, not across the street or some fucking thing, but like, no. This is one of those topics, man. Like, I don't really want to make a dark humored joke about this shit because it's extremely painful to the people going through it, man. It reminds me of the scene in that one Batman movie when Robin, he's a police officer, and he, you know, he goes to Batman and he talks about how he's in a group home, and he goes, you know, no one understood, but I understood. And I had to wear the mask, and I had to learn how to smile. And everyone, you know, they thought like, oh, you know, he'll eventually get his shit together, and they couldn't understand, why can't you get out of this? Because 16 years, motherfucker, 16 years. It's not on your time schedule. I wasn't on your time schedule. You get what I'm saying? Like, man, that's one of the realest scenes in movies ever, man, in regards to depression. It's fucking crazy. Anyways, man, Solo YOLO BOLO. You guys have a nice day. Love yourself, man. It's gonna be alright. It's gonna be alright. Even if it's not, it's still gonna be alright. Because fuck it.